Hi, everyone. This is the Connected Calm Life. My name is Lane Kennedy, and today my co-host is Siobhan.
Hey.
Oh, you said that perfectly.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
It's you.
yeah, because it's hard for me not to want to like poke fun, have fun, make it humorous. Can I say it in a silly voice? Like, that's kind of what brings me joy is how finding the silly in things. And so I was trying to be serious, Siobhan. Just be serious. You love Lane. You want to make sure this is good for her. But oh God, I can do this.
That's what makes it brilliant. That's what makes it brilliant. That's you.
Oh,
I'm so
yeah.
glad you're here today.
Aw, thank you.
Uh,
I feel honored to be here with the great Lane.
yeah, it's really so Siobhan and I met. Uh, I want to say I met Siobhan probably a good 12 years ago. She doesn't
Oh.
remember that.
Mm.
Um, and then we met like the fifth day of the pandemic, I think it was.
Mm.
Like really like the shutdown. And we had a conversation, and I knew that she was somebody that I had to put in my pocket and hang out with immediately. I just knew it.
Mm. I
I
felt
just
the
knew it.
same.
I just knew it. Siobhan, share your recovery date.
My
How about
recovery date
yeah.
uh is May 1st, 1986.
Oh my God, that just makes
For
me
all those counting. Wait, let's see. I like usually can rattle off my days, but I have 13,046 days. Isn't that
today.
amazing? I like to think of it in days. When I start thinking of it in years, it's just like, oh, it's just like a human. It's a
Yeah,
person. It's a thing. It's this bigger than life thing that
right.
doesn't even make sense to me because I still feel not sort of
86.
like a newcomer, but like I don't feel like a old timer.
Yeah. Long timer. I like the word long timer.
Yeah, that even seems, I don't know. I just feel like I've got a few extra days, you know?
Yeah. 86. I'm just thinking like, what was I doing well, 85, I graduated, and yeah, I was drinking a lot.
Hmm.
Like a lot. Like I had a hard time
Lot.
standing up. Yeah, it was kind of the demise, the early years of my
Mhm.
drinking career, and you were ending yours.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I was either going to end my life or end it. Like there really what there was no graceful piece to this. It was either I pretty much thought I was going to die and I was going to give this thing a year, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it won't work. So when it doesn't work, I'll just kill myself. Like it was just there was no the thought of it working or staying sober was not even I was just going to prove everybody, see, this is how screwed up I am. There's no hope for me.
yeah.
I'm going to do all this stuff just to prove I'm that defective. And then
And
look at me now.
and now look at you running the world. So brilliant. So brilliant. So in the show, I share a lot about just the process of recovery and
Mhm.
where you're at now. And, uh, you know, I like to take it just one day at a time. Sometimes it's a minute at a time. I'd like to highlight a couple of things in your recovery
Okay.
that may be useful to our listeners. And one of the things that I know that I struggle with personally is change. It's hard.
Hmm.
And during this pandemic, it's been really hard for me to engage in relationships
Hmm.
and to stay connected to my my girls, or my little community.
Mhm.
Has this impacted you at all? Has it like how has this change in the way that we're interacting now affected you in your emotional wellness?
It's a good question because I'm a very hyper social person and I
Yes.
created a whole life around that. And this is the longest I've ever gone without traveling. Like like, and not just traveling for fun, but traveling for my work, or like, back and forth to Africa, back and forth to New York for events, and then back and forth for, my normal work of recruiting. So I was averaging 3 to 6 months a year travel. And so then I had to be really dedicated about, like, okay, how do I do my recovery? How do I keep my connections? How do I work with my sponsor, my sponsees? So even if I was in Uganda, I would still keep my every 2 weeks meet with my sponsees. Like I would every like connect with friends. And so I think I was even more hyper, like, around making sure that I stayed connected with everybody, and then have friends in each of the cities or locations or countries that I'm in. And I was doing this kind of recovery for the last 15 years. Before anybody did online recovery, I had to. In Uganda, where I'm at, there's no meetings. There's not even internet. There's not even cell service. So I had to figure out ways to go and get, like, find internet, have a meeting, do it virtually. So obviously the pandemic and kind of was better, where I got more connected. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I get to really build out my recovery and support systems. But then on the physical side, in my personal relationships, like, I'm known for going out dancing every week and getting friends together and swimming with them every week and having parties every couple months. And all of that had stopped. And so it's just been really interesting to do a lot of internal work of, like, what is necessary now? What is, like, it doesn't mean that I'm not still that engaged or social person, but, like, I feel like the pandemic, the climate, the political environment is all making us stop and go, just like I would with anything in my recovery. What's the highest and the best today? What is, where, like, stop and take a moment, take a pause, take an inventory of, like, what's really working, what serves you, what serves others, and what is just noise. And I think the pandemic, probably more than anything, has looked at, like, who my friends really are. Like, I have a lot of great acquaintances around the world, but some of these people I didn't right size. They were not really my friends. I couldn't really tell them all this stuff. They just wanted the sort of fun, adventurous Siobahn who does this thing, and kind of put me in their pocket in a different way. Whereas, like, oh, she's just this thing. Whereas I now pretty much only have people in my life who really get me, and I can call when I'm really happy, or I can call when I'm having a really tough day, or I can just say, like, hey, I'm struggling right now, right? And I think, honestly, my husband, who's in recovery, really helped me do that. I met him about 5.5 years ago, and he started asking me questions that I felt like my best friends should be asking me. And, like, he'd be like, yeah, tell me more about that. And so I'd tell him my little pitch, my little story that I'd probably put on freaking some sort of social media thing, because I'd been single for so long. And he's like, no, I want to hear the real story. I want to hear what really is going on. Like, what do you feel about that? And I was like, what? My friends aren't even asking me this. My sponsor's not even asking me this.
How long were you single?
20 years.
Okay. I'm pro solo in sobriety.
But single is a relative term, right? Like, I had a lot of on and offs relationships. Okay. I had a lot of, like, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Yes.
Obviously. But yes. Like, I have this feeling that God sort of put me in as, like, a chess piece, like, until, like, I would just meet somebody and I was just like this explosion of cool and connectedness, and maybe they're in recovery or whatever, and we just seemed to match. And then all of a sudden, God would just pull them out of my life. I was like, and me and God would be having words. But and so me and God have this really great relationship, and I was like, and I started to really see, like, honestly, I'm such a driven person that if I thought I found my partner, I'm gonna go for it, right? And so God kept moving me around. So I was on all these dating sites and all these people, like, it's sort of lots of almost. And then, but honestly, it was on about 20 years that I didn't have a partner. And by the time
this I love so much, because you were able to explore your life, right? So by the time that you had this, that Evan came about, that your GOD popped him into your life, it made sense. It was like, oh, we're having deep conversations. This feels good. This feels right. I'm not going to go away. He's not going to, like, there was a connection there between the two of you that probably it didn't match anything previous to that in that 20 years.
No. And I need to go, like, there was a reason, like,
Yeah.
I really believe this bigger philosophy that I would have put all my relationship energy into a relationship. And
Yeah.
I had all of these misfortunes of being homeless and losing a baby and and just all of this PTSD and just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But all of those things created all these businesses or nonprofits or ways to be of service in the world. And if I'd had a partner, I wouldn't have done that. But at the time,
Yeah.
I was, God, you, I let me. And so I was like succeeding, or like, every crisis turned into some sort of flower that bloomed after 4 or 5 years. And so, including my charity in Africa, but I'm talking to God like, you, how come you won't let me have anybody who loves me? Like, all I was focused on was that I was failing in that area. Even all these other areas were
Rich.
actually succeeding, right? We're rich, right? And I
Rich and
really,
beautiful.
by the time I had met Evan, I really did feel very clear about who I was. And I
Hmm.
felt also clear in my purpose with
Yes.
how God was moving me around.
Yes.
By the time
That's
I
it.
met Evan, I didn't like, I just want a partner. I don't need anybody to buy anything from me.
No.
I don't really need anything from you,
Yeah.
except I just need you to be fully present and
Yeah.
willing to do your own work. And that we come together and create this little magical thing. And we both agreed there was no way this relationship was going to work. So some of you know me, some of you know that there's a little bit of an age difference between us. And like, we just were like, oh, this is only going to last a few weeks. So let me just enjoy it and savor it because it's just going to be another thing God pulls out of my life.
Okay, I'm going to pause you right there because we've just opened up a whole egg and the egg is like broken open now. So I'm deciding on if I want to add some chives to it or some cheese. But let's pause because we can take this in many different directions. And I think what's interesting here is that you got sober pretty young. I mean, let's
Very
face it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you were, how old were you? Like young, 18, 19?
19.
19. So you were able to explore your 20s, which is magical without drinking. I mean, it probably was uncomfortable and like
It was
just
awful.
wild.
Like, I feel like if I had just had alcoholism, but I really had a lot of outside issues. I had so many mental health issues and so much PTSD that honestly, my 20s are, I can barely remember. It's like they're like a blackout.
But that was a time for you to care for yourself or
Mhm.
something, this magical, I mean,
Learn how to
you're
parent myself, learn how to reparent
right,
myself, learn how to be sober, and then I joined a bunch of other 12-step programs, and
right.
it was basically like college for my soul, like learning how
It's a
to try
perfect way
to
to put it.
live like a human instead of this animal is what I had lived like.
So the 20s were kind of, you were embracing
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get into the 30s. Uh, what was that about?
I got married. I got married to a sober man who hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but like he didn't really ever do his step work, but I just assumed he did, and like we just, you know, it
It
was
didn't
it
work out. We're just going to
worked
say
out.
it didn't work out. So the 30s were there. 40s are you discovering your service?
Mindfulness. Yeah, how to be
Your,
of service and be a working member of society on a
yeah,
grander scale, and
right.
learn all the stuff that I learned about step work and traditions and like
So
being
if
of
you're
service
listening to
and
this show
respect.
and you're like, what is she talking about step work for? Or this God, don't worry about it. You
Oh,
know,
sorry.
like it's, everybody has a path to their emotional wellness and recovery. And Siobahn follows a 12-step path, which is an incredible way to find recovery. And everybody has their path. So, in regards to, taking it slow and discovering yourself, that's what you've done, Siobahn. Like your 20s, you dove into like self care, becoming your own parent. 30s were getting involved with a relationship that obviously didn't work and rearranging your life. 40s, finding out that service was the answer and like widening your path. And like then you met you met the love of your life as
Hmm.
well, right?
Yeah.
And I love that it's been this kind of slow process for you.
Hmm.
And because it really it allows others to go slow. We live in a society today where everything is like, it should have been done yesterday or 3 weeks ago. What are you kidding me? I should have been married already. I should have had the house. I should have been making 6 figures. Oh no, I should be making 7 figures. Don't you know who I am? Like there's a lot of that kind of mentality. And this idea of just slow and steady, right foot, left foot, next action, and builds this beautiful life. Like you have this amazing relationship where your partner takes time and listens to you. Hello.
Yeah. Now I have the opposite of anything that I grew up with. I mean, I can't think of any family member who has anything that is remotely healthy. Most of the people I grew up with, or all they're dead or dying from dead, or on the process of from some sort of addiction or mental health thing. Most of my family members have either died or killed themselves of alcoholism. So it's not like I come from anything where I learned anything. So for me to have the kind of relationship and like here's what I started writing goals and intentions 25 years ago about the visions that I wanted to see for. So me, not like resolutions, but like visioning myself. Where do I want to be? Where does my soul and my spirit want to be? I started writing about the ideal relationship that I wanted to be and the kind of partner I wanted to be in that relationship 25 years ago, even while I was still with my first husband. It's like 10 pages of just all this very detailed stuff of just the relationship section. I've got 33 pages of all my goals and intentions, but the relationship thing, if you read it, it's Evan. I I put that message into like my higher power. This is what I want to believe for myself. I read all these books and I thought, okay, this is what I want for myself. But I didn't think it was really possible because, those of you who heard my story or read my book, like my father was compared to Charles Manson. It's like I have a lot of trauma to overcome. I have a lot of beliefs that I had to relearn, and replace. And so for me to have a partner now, we still to this day, 5 years in, we roll over every morning and say, I love you. I choose you. Every morning. We
Whose
have not
idea was
ever
that?
missed a day. It
Whose
was
idea?
actually mine because
And he did. And see, this is where I'm like, what man does that? Evan. Like,
Evan,
he does.
and all you ladies, he's mine. Don't be
Ah,
taking him. But what happened is that we have this little bit of an age difference. People were giving us a very hard time about it. And so I was just like,
I don't think it's that big of an age difference.
no, it's not, whatever. But sometimes it's just
I mean, 30 years is an age difference.
people really have issues about money and
What,
sexuality
what
and
is that?
age.
What is that lesbian couple? Oh, that woman is so hot. God, I just was reading an article about them, but their age difference is substantial. I gotta look that up.
Well, let me finish telling you the story because this is really what's key, and I think it's actually what's key about our relationship. And if I can do this in all areas of my life, life is easier. So we both were just because of our age difference, where we were in our life, we didn't think it was going to last. We never thought of we thought we kind of met each other or became best friends, and then really quickly we kept like being attracted to each other romantically, and we're like, I don't think this is going to work. He kept saying, I just really want your friendship. Your friendship means so much to me. But then he'd come and kiss me again, and so I was like, okay, we got three options. We either are friends and we never cross that line. Two, we decide to start dating, or three, we don't talk to each other anymore. Whatever, those are the three options. Which one do you pick? He's like, let's date. And I was like, how about if we did this? Because we were about to go on a trip in Europe and we were pretty sure there was no way. We already had an exit plan in case things went awry in the trip. And I was like, what if we did this? What if we just choose each other every day? And there's going to be a day when we can't choose each other. There's going to be a day where I'm either too old, or you want kids, or you want this, or I want kids, or something's going to happen where we don't want each other because we're just in different places in life. He's like, oh my God, I love that. Let's do that. Well, we went to Europe. We fell in love in Paris. And honestly, we've never looked back, and we've said it every day. And and what's cool is because we still also know there's a chance that we might not last because most relationships don't last.
Yeah.
And the fact that we really savor today, it really falls in line with my recovery for my PTSD, my recovery with my 12 steps. It's like, I really only have today. Even with the pandemic, it's like all we have is today. What can I really enjoy and savor? That's why I don't have time for relationships that have drama or issues. I don't have time for any of that. I want time with the people and places and things that bring life, bring joy, fill my heart up with the sunlight of the spirit and with grace. And
Happiness.
that's a blessing because someone like me doesn't get that. You know, I most of my family still really struggles to even enjoy a day. So for me to have that where most days I'm really enjoying it, and even on a crappy day, I have the tools that I know by the next day I'll be okay. I can find the joy, or I can even find the joy in that crappy moment. And that, God, how could life be any better than that? That's as good as I think it could really get. It's like it's not winning a lot of prizes or friends or things. And even
Mm.
this relationship, I know that it could change.
It could change just like that. I know you guys have struggled or you've had little challenges through the pandemic, and it's been really an honor to just be your friend and to
Mm-hmm.
hear you like go through it,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and to know, like, I know that you're going to get through it. Whereas with some people who perhaps are not emotionally sober, who are not on the wellness path of recovery, they've ended their marriages. They've had to take the exit plan. Not to say that the exit plan is not the right direction, right? Like everybody has their path, but it's been really sweet to hear like your struggles
Mm.
and to know that you're doing, like, I know that you are fierce about doing your work, your internal,
Mm-hmm.
work that keeps you um, centered and sane,
Yeah.
I guess, right? Like that's
Yeah, I
today.
don't really have, there's not an option. I see some people like, oh, well, I used to do a lot of that work. I don't need to do that. Like,
Oh
I
God.
feel like it's like you don't just eat one meal and then you never eat again. You don't just drink one glass of water and then don't drink water again. It's like I need all of these things to be nourished and to be able to do it. And like, you know, it's really amazing to do this with a partner because I really didn't have that as a family or with other people in my life before that were in this particular role. And so we love like going off to our corners,
Mhm.
working on what's our individual fear that's getting lit up, and then how do we come together and work it out. We just had another one a couple weeks ago, and it's again, it doesn't even hardly last 24 hours, but they're so profound, right? Sometimes it's about chores, sometimes
Mhm.
it's about saving money, and we both look at like what's lighting up, like this is lighting up my fear when he says this, and this is lighting up his fear when I say this. And
Mhm.
then we go, okay, well, can we quit taking it personally for a second? Can we look at our stuff individually, go to our corners, go to our people, and then come back and like how do we move forward? And that has been just everything I like. I just didn't think that was possible. I
Yeah.
like read it in books and it seemed like that's all a crock. No, that doesn't exist. I hear that it's just like a unicorn. I hear people say they can do this stuff, but now I have that in my life and it's miraculous. And I'm glad I waited. I'm glad that I waited to to work through this lonely years of
The,
loneliness.
the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, just life on life's
Yeah, it's
terms.
just life.
Yeah, and that, I didn't, well, it's better to just be with this person instead of be alone. Like, no, that's the loneliest place to be. But the best place to be is with people who see you and hear you. And even if if Evan and I don't work out, I
You'll be
know
fine.
I'll be fine. I
Yeah.
know he'll be fine. Like, I know, like, I'm still friends with a lot of my exes. Like, I'm not, I just want to, I don't want to be stuck in the past. I want to be moving forward and moving, uh, and really listening to spirit. Like, where do you want me today? What are my marching orders today? What do you need
Yeah.
me to do today? And that is easier said than done. There's days like today I woke up super groggy, not feeling it. It's like still sat in my meditation chair. I was like, okay, source, I need some source. I need some power. Show me what you want me to do today. Whereas yesterday I was like, da, 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 da. I felt super overcharged. So I think it is. It's just taking a day at a time and what are my tools today and how do I utilize my tools and not just get complacent. I think complacency is one of the biggest problems with finding. your joy and your centeredness, because you
Yeah.
can take care
Complacency is killer.
of.
It is absolute like self-destruction. Um, and I love this idea of like sitting in the chair, even when you don't want to, right? Like I know for me, that's part of the practice. It's just like you have to sit there, Lane. You just sit there. And that agitation will bubble up and then suddenly there's a softening to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to get out of the chair and show up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in our relationships, I think a lot around if we're not participating in that practice every day, the relationship suffers. Have you found that to be
Oh,
true?
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
part of
Does your
why the
does
issue,
he practice as well?
yeah,
Okay.
part of where we started having issues during the pandemic is both of our practices got a little like we both were doing our work, but not to the normal amount we do, and that impacted us. And that's where we both started like, okay, we got to go back and make sure we're doing our self work. Otherwise, like, because we were bickering over stupid little stuff, which we don't ever do usually. And that's kind of also I'm like, oh, this is a warning sign when we're doing this.
Yeah.
Where are we not doing our individual stuff? And then what are we not doing together? Like now we almost walk almost every morning in the park together as part of another routine to try to keep our connectedness. We always have a date every week. Every Saturday is date day. Every day Sunday is every day apart day too, right? We need a time apart. And so we have time to do our own work and see our own people and see our own friends. So it's again really making sure you have routines that keep that. And then when you start seeing some bubbling up, going, okay, where do we need to dive a little bit deeper?
It's interesting. During the pandemic, my husband and I mean, we like I would walk the dog or he would walk the dog. We would never do it together. And during the pandemic, that's been something that we have, I don't even know, it was an unspoken agreement. Are
Mm-hmm.
you ready? Are you ready? I'm going. Okay, I'm going. Right. So it's become this thing that we do
Mm-hmm.
every day. And I can't tell you how this small action,
Mm-hmm.
I seriously think it has been the glue that has kept us together through the pandemic. Because, let's face it, I'm not going to be like, oh, you're the best thing ever every day. Like, no, like it's hard. Relationships are hard. Marriage is hard. We've been together over 10 years. It's even harder. Right. So there's like a lot going on, but having that specific time every day has changed the way that we move in the house.
Mm.
Like it's not fun when we don't walk because there's like a crispiness.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm too busy. Or I'm like, I can't deal with that right now. Like there's a clash of the titans.
Mm-hmm.
But that walk, oh, if you're listening right now and you're not walking, Siobhan and I both have the experience that the walk is magic time.
Yeah, and it didn't used to be a thing. This is kind of a newer
Yeah.
thing for me. Like I'm a go swim in the ocean, big
Uh-huh.
workouts. Like I everything's very intense. So
Yeah.
the walk seems sort of slow and subtle, and that's
Yep.
if anybody who knows me, that's not my speed. Like another metaphor that is very similar that has helped me personally, which was my swim in the ocean, right? So I swim all year round without a wetsuit in the San
Which
Francisco.
is crazy. You guys, if so some of I have listeners all around the world. So the San Francisco Bay is freezing. I'm just telling
Right
you.
now it's 50 degrees.
It's freezing. It's cold here.
Cold. It's very cold. It takes your breath away. And
It
yeah,
takes more than your breath away. Come on. You've
well,
been
it
trying to
doesn't,
get me in there for 2 years now. And I'm like, no, not ready yet.
Lane, it'll change your life.
I
You're telling
know.
everybody to walk with their husband. Well, you need to jump in the water. But
Oh
anyway,
God.
it's a
Scares me.
metaphor for life because every time I still stand at the edge and go, I'm in my bikini going, oh my God, this water's going to kill me. And then,
Just that.
and then you walk back and you want to turn around. So you're getting in. And then once you're in,
Oh my God.
like you see the sea cliffs and you see the Golden Gate Bridge and you see the dolphins. And then you feel alive. And the rest of the day, my body is tingling with aliveness. And I was like, wow, if I just walk through the uncomfortability, if I
Mhm.
walk through the uncomfortability of this,
Mhm.
I become more me. And it sort of walk with my partner or walk in my job has been kind of uncomfortable during the pandemic, as I've
Mhm.
had some not so great bosses. And just like, how do I still walk with grace? How do I walk through the uncomfortability with that joy and find the joy in the midst of these things? That's where the sweetness of life is, right? So
I know. I
I'm gonna
know.
get in that water.
I know. Yeah, yeah, I know. The water is coming to me. I feel it in my bones. It
All you
scares me.
listeners, you email her and tell her to get in the water with me.
It scares me. So it's one of those things. It scares me. So I know it's one of the things that I have to do. And I just keep putting it off and putting it off. And when I met you and you told me, I was like, oh, it's coming. And now we're like 2 years into this, right? Almost. And I still haven't done it, but I feel it. It's like up, there's a thermometer and it's like up to my neck. I'm like, oh my God. Like the idea of even getting in a bikini, I'm like horrified of that. Just stop me right there. No.
And that's what's funny because that's where you start to realize, like, wow, this belief that one, the bikini,
Yep.
one, the water's gonna kill me. What do people
Yep.
think? Like you
I
get
don't
to
have the what are people going to think?
no, but I mean,
But like,
just for everybody, right? Like we all have something, right? Like this is, and then you get in and you make the move, and you're like, why did I let my mind stop me?
right.
Because honestly, the ocean swimming has been
Mhm.
probably the best thing for my physical health because I
Yep.
actually have a lot of arthritis most
Yep.
of my life.
Yep.
It helps me with that. It's also helped me more with my PTSD than almost any other type of therapy.
Yep.
So or same thing with the walking, right? Like these are
Yep.
those simple things that like you just sometimes move forward into something that doesn't feel as comfortable. It honestly will save your life.
It just makes me sweat thinking
All
about
right,
it.
well, let's move on so we don't make you sweat during this interview.
It's not an interview. So, one of the things that I also love so much about you is your dedication or commitment to women's health,
Hmm.
right? You started a nonprofit over
Mhm.
in Uganda, and you're passionate about that. And I've heard you share much about that. Share with our listeners, the work that you're doing over there. And you brought up like there's no cell phone, there's no like just that obstacle is enough for me to say, I'm going to let someone else do this. But you freaking did it, which is, again, it shows your inspiration and your desire to make change in the world. So
Hmm.
let's share a little bit about that.
So, so one mom actually was started because I lost a baby and got postpartum really bad. It was one of the hardest things in my life, and I've had a very hard life. And so, just like any normal crazy person would do, I decided to go to Africa to follow some vision I had when I was a teenager and go help others who had it worse than me and see if I could like get out of myself and help others and get through this pain. Well, foreshadowing, I would meet. Uh, I went through 6, 7 countries. One of them was Uganda. And in the process of me volunteering there, I met a woman named Mama Jamira. And she's now like my mama. She's the one who married Evan and I, actually. Um, and um, I can't explain it, but she doesn't speak any English, and I don't speak hardly any Lugandan. But we were just soulmates right away. Like, she is now the mom I never had. She's just, and I was the daughter she didn't have. And um, this bond just happened. It was instant. And I don't think I would know that my life purpose flashed before my eyes at that point. It would take years of, well, I was going to give it to somebody else, or I've got this idea. Like, you just don't really know. Like, I had to have this vision of when you get a life purpose, it's going to be this like light bulb moment. And it was like a crawling me coming out of a blackout. Like, it's just sort of like trying to like letting God, like helping me become the caretaker of this vision was like God trying to smooth me around in the right place. Come on, I'm trying to get you over here. Come on. So that is, and where this place is Mama Jamar had a little fishing box and it had a razor blade and some thread, and this is how women would come to her. They'd walk for miles and miles pregnant and have their babies on dirt roads no running water, no electricity, very few medical supplies. She's a medicine woman. She's herbalist, so people had much safer births with her than anywhere else because she at least had traditional herbs to work with that would help with bleeding and those kinds of things. So this is the kind of circumstances I'm coming in. I was like, God, if I could just get boxes of gloves, then I could keep her from getting HIV, could stop the mother from transmission from baby. And it was just really, I was like, I'll just put it up on a website where people could donate gloves. And like, it was just a simple idea, but it turned out it was this much bigger thing and it was much bigger than me. And, um, I never have gotten to have babies. And I really do believe that I gave birth to a clinic. I gave, like, this is my way to be a mom of thousands. And it really, like, I kept thinking at some point I'd want to have kids, which I used to really want. But as I started to be moved into this role of being the mama of one mama, that has moved into like, and to build these 250 clinics around the world wherever living. Do you know there's 3 billion people who live under $2.50 a day? That's like half the planet.
Yeah,
And
I know.
$2.50 a day, like think about that.
Yeah.
You can't buy a coffee for that. You can't even park here for that. Like you can't do there's just like it's really the conditions that so much of the planet is living, and most women are still living in impoverished communities and do not have,
Makes
in
me
rural
crazy.
communities, are having their babies in this format, like all over the world, not just in Africa, not just here, even in Native American tribes. They don't have the health care. And so my goal was to like, I don't know, the vision came to me, and so that was where this came out of. And then it was kind of perfect because I was raised with no running water and electricity. I was raised, in with a lot of health problems, bedridden most of my life. And so all this foreshadowing of my childhood and my upbringing and my health problems kind of gave me all of the tools to sort of help others, empower them. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it for you, but I'll help hold your hand. Let's all figure this out together, because it's not like I know, not like a health provider. It's not like I know. And people were when I was trying to get money and first started, people were like, oh, you shouldn't do this. You're not a doctor.
Everybody says no. It's
Everybody
so,
says no, right?
everybody, nah.
And I was like, but then who's going to do it? Well, somebody's going to do it, but you shouldn't do it. You definitely should do it. You're just an entertainer. You shouldn't do
No,
this.
no.
And I was like, no, if I don't do this, who's going to do this? The calling is here. The phone call is coming, and I'm here. And you know what? We built
That's
out
it.
medical supplies. We built, like, we have a full, birthing center, medical center. I built out a domestic violence center. And these are all issues that I personally have faced. And like, it's
Right.
cool. Like, I can't change everything, but I can provide the solutions, and they can choose to use them or not.
Right.
And and not there's something cool about when you're actually doing something, that then all these things that are happening in the world that are pretty messed up don't feel quite as overwhelming. I'm not gonna get wrong, it's been a hard couple years, but knowing that I am doing my best to try to put a couple drops in the bucket of change, and that I'm a part of that change, and I pray for every day to what are my marching orders, that really makes a difference. And now I'm doing it in the corporate world. And
So many people don't answer the call,
mm-mm.
right? We all get the
It's
call.
scary.
We
It's
all get
hard.
we all get the call. And
Everybody.
so many people, women, I will stick with the women, right? We don't answer that call. So if you're listening today and you've gotten that call, it's time to answer the call, right? It is time. And Siobahn, you've shared so much today. I could always talk to you for hours. Like, we just go on and on. You're going to get me into the ocean, so then we'll have more to talk about.
I want to say something about answering the call, though, before we move on.
Okay.
Is that the call is not going to it's not going to look the way you think it's going to look.
It never
It's
does.
usually probably going to come from whatever the most painful thing in your life is, the hardest thing, the uncomfortable area of your life. Look there and look under that rock, because that's where you'll probably have enough uncomfortability to transmute and change and transform into whatever it is you're supposed to transform and have your purpose. Having this birthing clinic and medical center, I get a lot of accolades for it, but it's hard. I get malaria every time I go there. I get very sick from it. I have no savings. I financially, like, I have chosen not to take a salary. Like, there's a lot of things that don't look good on paper that come with this, right? But my soul and my prosperity of shining in my bright, healthy light
Mm-hmm.
is so, priceless.
Yeah.
That's where we have to learn to look away from these sort of storylines we saw in movies or whatever and look at, like, what is the calling for me, and am I willing to really follow it, even though it's going to feel really like I'm jumping off a cliff all the time. But it's the most amazing thing ever is to follow it, and I've now had several since I've started the clinic that are me jumping off a cliff, and with with my higher power and with my friends and support, and just going, and some of them worked great and some of them didn't,
Some of them don't.
but it's still, the lesson was still there. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it was a failure. It means it actually was of service, and then it's done.
Yeah. Some things can be that quick, right? It can take a month or a week, or it can just be once and then you're done with that.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that that the call was going to be my life.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
I was like, oh, it's going to be the thing that I'm doing forever. And when meditation and mindfulness came up, I was like, that can't be it. That, like, what do you mean? Right. Like discovering that was the call,
Mm-hmm.
because it was so like in my face. And, like having a kid. Oh, that's the call. I have to answer that call. I don't want, like, no, that's not what I want. Right. But it's like we're presented with these obstacles or challenges, and whether or not we choose to pick up or not is ours. And the longer I find that the longer I put off, like getting in the ocean, my life becomes more uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, it's there. Siobahn, you're my gem. I hold you
You're my
tightly.
gem. I love you, honey.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
being on this path of recovery and sharing the wisdom that you just can't find unless you've traveled it.
Hmm.
You have to explore it.
You have to
Um,
be it. You have to be
yeah,
willing to look messy and
yeah,
just be it. Like, I like to say, I have a lot of manure in my life so that I can have a really nice flower patch.
rich garden.
Rich garden, lots of manure. So if you got a lot of manure,
You're doing
you
good.
are gonna have the best garden if you just, all you got to do is turn the soil and put some seeds in
Oh,
there.
that's so true. All right, friend. Do you want people to go hang over or go check out One Mama?
Yeah, you can go check out One Mama, www.onemama.org, or you can actually check out my Fighting for Your Joy, which also donates to One Mama, which is also just tools that I learned. A lot of what we just talked about is how I found my own tools, and now half the time I'm just giving it away free unless you want to donate. All that money goes to One Mama.
Give it to One Mama. Give
To our mama.
it to
But
One
I
Mama.
just, at the end of the day, I just want us all to find a way to
Yeah,
empower each other. So
beautiful.
thanks.
So good. All right, my friend, make sure that you share this episode with another woman who's out there listening, who needs to listen. May you find something bright, something light, and something so delicious that fills you up so you can be the best I know you can be. Until next time, take good care.
Take great care.